In my opinion, every time we actually are inspired by biological intelligence, and that might be human intelligence, in writing code that has a level of independence in solving problems and autonomy, we're talking about artificial intelligence.
So independent problem solving.
Yes.
Is a pretty good place to start.
And inspired by natural intelligence.
So why is that it's inspired by natural intelligence? And when we say natural intelligence, we mean our species, human beings' brains. Why is it that we look to our brains as, sort of the gold standard?
Nature solves problems, at least that's the way we look at it, and it solves problems in a very efficient and generalizable manner. And the human brain is a very good example of that. But it's, in my opinion, intelligence is not restricted only to the human intelligence.
Sure.
I think through time, our species, life itself, actually solves problems.
This whole Darwin thing that's been going around.
Through evolution.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And simply by, surviving. And if we can codify that, we can solve very, very difficult problems. Problems that are even more difficult than problems that our mind, actually, our brain solves today. So in my definition of artificial intelligence, we don't constrain ourselves to something that works as well or very similar to the human brain.
Because that is some people's definition, is that you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a human and a computer's way of looking at solving a problem. So when we see companies coming out with, let's say, artificial intelligence-powered assistants, like Facebook, I think, has one, where you can request things, or there's calendaring apps now, but they have humans on the back end looking at the text and then sort of massaging it, and it maybe is more like a decision tree. When you look at those kind of things, is that really artificial intelligence in your mind? Or is it people sort of capitalizing on AI is in the news?
That's such a great question. The fact is, if you go all the way back to Turing, when he defined intelligence, he actually didn't define it. He said, there's this black curtain, and behind it something's going on, and if it tricks you into thinking it's intelligence, it's intelligence. It's a way of evading the question itself. What is intelligence, right? It's kind of leaving it up to us to make that definition. And I think the same holds even today. I had a role in the technology that goes behind Siri, and years ago we put a system out that was an assistant and used natural language processing, and you could ask it, in fact, for trading-related S&P 500 queries. As soon as we put it on our website, people were asking it, "Who's your CEO? Tell me the meaning of life. Give me a joke," or cursing at it.
Yeah.
And so very quickly we found out, okay, there's this expectation of intelligence, even though we've told people that you're going to be talking about trading. What people are expecting from it is very human-like. And we added a whole bunch of, an aura of applicability beyond what it was supposed to do, including, what is the meaning of life? Let's just, randomly pick something from that list and return it to the users. And in fact, that aspect of it, and if you look at Siri today, that aspect of Siri is what makes people think it's very intelligent. It's the least intelligent piece of the code.
It's the soft stuff that makes it feel human and warm and fuzzy. I mean, we are seeing kids, I don't know if you've seen videos on the internet, but now my daughter, and I watch some of her friends, she's going to be 6 years old, they love talking to Siri.
Yep.
They love this idea of asking her questions, and to them, it's a person. It's not, so it's sort of passing the Turing test with this next generation.
It is.
On some level.
And it's inspiring them to actually use it more. So, whether or not we should avoid putting that sort of functionality into an assistant simply because it's not smart, I actually think we should put that in there, because it actually makes for a more delightful interaction. It makes for people to actually use the system versus, it's too robotic, it's too artificial, we're not going to use it.
So your company has raised, and it's really interesting because you've been able to keep Sentient very quiet. You don't do a ton of press, so thanks for coming, by the way. Did you not do a bunch of press for the first couple of years intentionally because you didn't want to be part of the hype cycle? Because now you've raised over $140 million. It's much more than any other company, I think including DeepMind, which was purchased by Google. How many people work at this secretive company, and is it a secretive company? Was that part of the plan?
Well, not anymore.
Not anymore. Now you're coming out. Yeah.
Exactly. Up until November of last year, we were in stealth mode. There's no reason for us to actually market ourselves. We were using our AI exclusively for trading. And here's one of the reasons I really like AI. You know, you write code or AI. Here's the reason, that we actually use trading. I like trading is because you write code, and if the code works, it makes money. You don't have any middleman, no sales, no marketing.
Pretty definitive, isn't it?
Very definitive. But a year and a half ago, with the success of the evolutionary computation scale to solve the trading problem, we decided let's look at other technologies that might scale just as well, and other areas where we could make money. And we looked into deep learning combined with online learning applied for visual intelligence systems. And that's when it started making sense for us to, advertise our existence.
What did you accomplish in the trading space? Because I look at a lot of startups, and when I have people come to me with, every year I get 2 or 3 companies that say, we are able to, through sentiment analysis, and I'm like, sediment? Like in the bottom of the ocean? No, sentiment, Jason, sentiment analysis. We can look at what people are saying in newspapers, in message boards on Twitter and Facebook, and decide what trades to make, and then we're going to sell that to the banks. And always my reaction is, well, if you know sentiment, why don't we just give you some money and have you start trading and doubling it every 6 months or something? It makes no sense to sell this technology. It never works. So what have you accomplished in actual trading? Because you wouldn't be in business as long if it didn't work. We just said before, it's pretty binary. Either it works for people or it doesn't. So what's an example of something you've accomplished? And if it is working, why don't you just take that 140 million or 100 million or whatever's left and just start trading yourself?
Very good question. So part of the reason why we didn't want to talk about the trading side is exactly what you mentioned. If you actually have a really good trading algorithm, you don't advertise it. You don't put it as an API out there on the web for people to go use.
Competitive advantage.
Sorry?
It's a competitive advantage?
It is a competitive advantage, and it just gets arbitraged away. So, but our approach was quite unique. Rather than looking for, some sort of pattern in, an equity curve, and deciding, okay, is this thing going to go up or down, and then handing that information as a classification off to the next step in the pipeline to decide how to trade it. We thought, well, at the end of the day, it's about decision making. It's not simply about pattern matching. And so let's come up with a rule set. The complete code for a robot, if you like, that would actually automatically trade. So this is sort of a meta programming. It's a program that writes its own code.
Wow.
So we use the evolutionary computation to, in a very massively distributed scaled way, actually author the code for trading strategies.
Okay. Now let my simple mind catch up with your 17 PhDs for a second. You are creating code that will look at trading data and then decide what code to write next to analyze what parts of that data it's sort of like being a detective, figuring out the next clue and the next possible place where they should put the CPUs towards. Is that right?
That's pretty close. So
Okay.
what it does is it actually says, okay, it works the other way around. So evolution is funny that way. You write some code, and that code is actually going to be a really, really disastrous trader. But it's a trader. It will make decisions to buy and sell and short and so forth. You write that code, and you let it trade. And you let it trade over some historical data. And it's going to be a disaster, but it's going to be probably less bad than some other code that you've also written. And remember, you're writing this code many, many times over on many, many CPUs. We're running on more than 1.5 million CPUs, running for months. You go through 4 or 5 trillion such pieces of code, and you are very intelligently combining them, the better ones. And ultimately, you get the code that works quite well, consistently, and generalizes.
Okay.
So that's how the code gets authored.
This is mind-blowing to me because I actually understand what you're doing. You're making whatever it is in terms of millions or billions of simulations, watching all the you're making the million monkeys with a billion typewriters and seeing who comes up with Shakespeare by looking at the actual results and if it reads well and entertains people in the theater. When we get back from this commercial break, I want you to explain to me, and maybe you're going to be able to show me some stuff?
I can show
we
you
have a
some
demo.
stuff.
So when we get back, I want you to demo a little bit of this artificial intelligence we're talking about here from Sentient, which is the world's most funded AI company and the one that everybody's really talking about hand in hand with the one that Elon Musk was an investor in and Larry Page wound up buying and causing a whole rift in the AI community. Elon didn't want them to sell. Larry Page did want to buy them, and DeepMind was bought. I want you to answer that question. Are you worried, like Elon Musk is, about the machines becoming sentient when we get back after these messages?